Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to give you a short introduction into factoring. Basically explaining what it is, answering the question, what is factoring? Okay. Now, factoring seems to perplex a lot of people, and it's really not that difficult. If you think of factoring as the opposite of distributing, okay? Just think of factoring as an opposite of distributing. Now, what do I mean by that? Let me give you a quick example. Let's say I have something like, I'm going to multiply the term x times, let's say, a binomial. And the binomial, let's say, is x plus 2. Okay? Distributing that is pretty easy. Most people know how to do that. So I would just take x times the first term, and you'd come up with x squared. So you'd multiply that times that. Plus, and then you'd multiply that one times that one. In other words, x times the 2, and you come up with 2x. And you end up with a binomial with x squared plus 2x. Now factoring starts here. So assume that I have the problem x squared plus 2x, and now I want to factor that to get back to the original distribution problem. Okay? So you can think of, excuse me, you can think of factoring as just as the opposite of distributing, or here's another way of thinking about it. You could think of factoring as making your problem a multiplication problem. Okay, so again, it's just a way of going backwards. And math is really good at that, right? There's always lots of ways of going backwards and forwards in math. It's transforming things. Just like, addition is the opposite of subtraction, right? Division is the opposite of multiplication. Distributing is just the opposite of factoring. All right? If you can go forwards and backwards on both, it's like using two hands, a right hand and a left hand. So now, how do you do it? Well, it does take some tricks, okay? And for this one, for example, I'm just going to ask myself, is there any term that's common or any factor, that's where the word factoring comes from, is there any factor that's common in both of those terms? Okay, and the answer is x, right? So you say, okay, if I took out the x, what times x gives me x squared? The answer would be like another x. Okay, so x times x gives you x squared. Plus, what times x gives me 2x? And the answer would be 2. So you'd say x times 2 is 2x. Go ahead and check it. Sure enough, that times that, and that times that gives you the original problem again. So I just went ahead and factored that. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in this brief introduction is the type of terms that you're going to end up needing to factor in an algebra class. The terms are what we call monomials, binomials, trinomials, and what I call four-term polynomials. So I want to end this little tutorial by talking a little bit about what are polynomials, because notice you have omials in here in all of these. Polynomials, if you just look at the word, poly means many. And nomials, if you look at the word in French, the word nom, it means a name, but basically just means terms. For our purposes, it means terms. So polynomials have many terms. Okay? Monomial, if you look at the different types of polynomials, mono means one, bi means two, tri means three. Four-term polynomials, we don't call them quadrinomials because I guess it's a little confusing, but you can actually factor more. But we just call them four-term polynomials in our class. So monomials are one term. So something like, for example, x squared is like one term. Now, the other thing that you need to know about for terms of polynomials before I talk about these guys here is in polynomials, the terms are separated by additions and subtractions. By additions and or subtractions. Any combination of both. So for example, if I looked at this monomial, I know that it's x times x, but it's still one term, right? Because there's no addition or subtraction on either side of that thing there. So, okay? A binomial would be something like this, x squared plus 2x. The term x squared is separated from the 2x by an addition, okay? So this would be a binomial, or two terms. Trinomials, you get the idea. X squared plus, let's say, 2x plus 1. This would be a trinomial, again separated by additions or subtractions. And finally, a four-term polynomial. Again, let's just do something like this. Let's just add another term, and I'm just going to do that. And you see that it's separated by a addition, and a subtraction, and you end up with four different terms. Now, in later videos, I'll show you how to factor monomials, binomials, trinomials, and four-term polynomials. Okay, I hope that was helpful.